Dogen instructed. When my late teacher Myosen was about to go to China, his former teacher Myojo Jari, who was living on Mount Hiei, became seriously ill and was about to die. At the time, Master Myoju asked Myosen, "I am old and sick. My death must be near and at hand. Please put off going to China for a while. Take care of me as I am very sick, and conduct a funeral service for me when I die. After I have passed away, carry out what you really wish to do." Myosen gathered together with his fellow priests and disciples to consult with them. He said, "Since the time I left my parents' home in my childhood, I have been brought up by this teacher, and now I have grown up. My debt of gratitude for his raising me is very great. Also, due solely to his upbringing, I learned the Dharma Gate, which is beyond the ordinary realm of the verbal teachings of Mahayana and Hinayana, or the provisional and the real. Thanks to him, I came to understand causality, learn right from wrong, surpass my fellow monks, and gain honor. And now I aspire to go to China to seek the Dharma, because I understand the truth of the Buddha Dharma. But this year he has become seriously ill due to old age, and is lying on his deathbed. He will not live much longer, and he cannot expect to see me again. Therefore, he strongly urges me to postpone my trip. It is difficult to go against my teacher's request. Moreover, my going to China to seek the Dharma for the sake of benefiting sentient beings, without holding my life dear, derives from the great compassion of the Bodhisattva. Is there any reason to go against the request of my teacher and go to China, or not? Tell me what you think." At the time, all his disciples said, "Give up going to China this year. Your aged master's illness is critical. He will surely die. If you stay only for this year and go to China next year, you wouldn't be going against your teacher's wish, and you wouldn't be neglecting your great debt of gratitude. What is wrong with going to China half a year or a year from now? It wouldn't go against the bond between master and disciple, and still you will be able to carry out your wish to go to China." At the time, as the least experienced monk, I said, "If you think that your enlightenment of the Buddha Dharma is what it should be, you should put off your trip to China." My late master said, "That is so. Practice of the Buddha Dharma should be like this. If I practice this way for my whole lifetime, I think I will be released and attain the way." I said, "If that is so, you should stay." After all of us had given our opinions, Myosen said, "All of you agree that I should stay. My resolution is different. Even if I put off my trip for the time being, one who is certain to die will die. My remaining here won't help to prolong his life. Even if I stay to nurse him, his pain will not cease. Also, it would not be possible to escape from life and death because I took care of him before his death. I would just be following his request and comforting his feelings for a while. It is entirely useless for gaining emancipation and attaining the way. To mistakenly allow him to hinder my aspiration to seek the Dharma would be a cause of evil deeds. However, if I carry out my aspiration to go to China to seek the Dharma and gain a bit of enlightenment, although it goes against one person's deluded feelings, it would become a cause for attaining the way of many people. Since the merit is greater, it will help return the debt of gratitude to my teacher. Even if I were to die while crossing the ocean and fail to accomplish my aspirations, since I would have died with the aspiration to seek the Dharma, my vow would not cease in any future life." We should ponder Genjo Sanso's journey to India, vainly spending time which is easily lost for the sake of one person would not be in accordance with the Buddha's will. Therefore, I have firmly resolved to go to China now. So saying, he finally went to China. For my late teacher, having the true body-mind was like this. Therefore, students, you should not become involved in useless matters and lose time in vain, using your parents or teachers as an excuse, nor set aside the Buddha way, which is superior to all other ways. Do not waste time. At the time, Ejo asked, for the sake of truly seeking the Dharma, we must eliminate the hindrance caused by our obligation to our parents and or teachers, existing only in the realm of delusion. It is just as you said. And yet, even if we completely renounce our obligation and affection for our parents or our teachers, when we aspire to practice to the practice of a bodhisattva, we should put aside personal benefit and put primary importance on benefiting others. If so, when the aged teacher was seriously ill, and no one but Myosen could nurse him, if he was only thinking in terms of his own practice without helping his teacher, it would seem to go against the bodhisattva practice, wouldn't it? A mahasattva, a magnanimous person, does not discriminate between things or doing good. Shouldn't we consider the Buddha Dharma according to the circumstances and the particular situation? By this reasoning, should he not have stayed to help his teacher? Why did he only think of seeking the Dharma instead of caring for his aged teacher in his final illness? What do you think? Dogen instructed, whether acting for the benefit of others or acting for your own benefit, if you abandon the inferior one and take the superior one, it should be the good practice of the Mahasattva. To care for infirm aged parents in poverty is only the temporary pleasure of illusory love and deluded sentiment of this brief life. If you go against your deluded sentiments and learn the way of no defilement, even though you may receive some resentment, it will become a positive factor in entering the Buddha Dharma, which is beyond the world. Consider this well. So, on my way to Japan, in the airplane, I read this book called Mastery. A friend of mine gave it to me at the airport as kind of a goodbye present. He told me, this book is really not very good, but it has some very interesting stories that you might find interesting. So I started to read, and when I read this chapter, I was thinking about if I was one of the disciples of Myosen at the time, what would I have said when he asked this question to everyone. And for some reason I remembered this book. And I will explain why, but first I will read to you the first paragraphs. There exists a form of power and intelligence that represents the high point of human potential. It is the source of the greatest achievements and discoveries in history. It is an intelligence that is not taught in schools nor analyzed by professors, but almost all of us at some point have had glimpses of it in our own experience. It often comes to us in a period of tension facing a deadline, the urgent need to solve a problem, a crisis of some sorts. Or it can come as the result of constant work on a project. In any event, pressed by circumstances, we feel unusually energized and focused. Our minds become completely absorbed in the task before us. This intense concentration sparks all kinds of ideas. They come to us as we fall asleep, out of nowhere, as if it's springing from our unconscious. We might normally experience life in a passive mode, constantly reacting to this or that incident. But for these days or weeks, we feel like we can determine events and make things happen. We could express this power in the following way. Most of the time, we live in an interior world of dreams, desires, and obsessive thoughts. But in this period of exceptional creativity, we are impelled by the need to get something done that has a practical effect. We force ourselves to step outside our inner chamber of habitual thoughts and connect to the world, to other people, to reality. Instead of fleeting here and there in a state of perpetual distraction, our minds focus and penetrate to the core of something real. At these moments, it is as if our minds turned outward, are now flooded with light from the world around us, and suddenly exposed to new details and ideas, we become more inspired. The problem we face is that this form of power and intelligence is either ignored as a subject of study or is surrounded by all kinds of myths and misconceptions, all of which only add to the mystery. We imagine that creativity and brilliance just appear out of nowhere, the fruit of natural talent, or perhaps a good mood, or an alignment of the stars. It would be an immense help to clear up the mystery, to name this feeling of power, to examine its roots, and to define the kind of intelligence that leads to it, and to understand how it can be manufactured and maintained. Let us call this sensation mastery, the feeling that we have greater command of reality, other people, and ourselves. Although it might be something we experience for only a short while, for others, masters of their field, it becomes their way of life, the way of seeing the world. So, I just read to you this because Zen students and monks in monasteries are not the only ones chasing for enlightenment, or at least something of the sort. Search for a greater kind of meaning in life, it exists everywhere. In the secular world, it has many names. And this guy, the author of this book, gave it the name Mastery. And what this book is about, well, it's about that, and it contains, as my friend said, many stories, very interesting stories about these people who may be called masters. It includes, I don't know, well, I will actually give you 2 examples that come from this book. So I think the reason why I remember this book is because my first instinct when thinking of an answer for Myosen was to think that I would tell him, yes, of course, you should go to China. You shouldn't listen to anyone if you are really following your path and following the way and doing what's in your heart, then you should think of nothing else and go to China. Because this is the way I was raised, not only by my parents and my family, but by the world and by the examples I can look up to. And I think that's why I remember this book. For example, it is full of stories of people who, in spite of their parents or teachers, of loved ones or spouses, became sort of, I'm repeating this word a lot, but masters of what they do, kind of enlightened at their own sort of way of looking at it. So the first example is Mozart. As you all know, or maybe you all know, Mozart was a composer from Austria. His love for music started when he was very, very small. He was 4 years old, and his older sister played the piano. Even though he was very, very small, he asked his father to... he also wanted to learn how to play the piano. So he asked his father to pay for a teacher who would give him piano lessons. And as soon as he started, maybe you have all heard, he became a prodigy very, very fast. And his father did everything in his power to make him able to fulfill his dream of playing the piano. He took great care of his education, and later on, when Mozart grew up, he took him all around Europe, spending every cent he had in these journeys, so that Mozart could play in front of audiences. And well, eventually he became really, really good and really famous.